Welcome to the Bible Has Answers for today. We're in part 3 of a 4-part series called Mankind, God's Greatest Creation. In part 1, we talked about the incredible human body. In part 2, we talked about junk DNA. And here in part 3, we're going to talk about the 2% difference. The common perception is that humans and chimpanzees are only 2% different in our DNA. Biology textbooks promote this idea. Many university professors teach that we're close relatives, and many science journals promote this idea. In 2012, the American Association for Advanced Science had an article in the journal Science that stated, ever since researchers sequenced the chimp DNA in 2005, they have known that humans share about 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees, making them our closest living relatives. Well, let's look at just the facts. The claim of 2% goes back to 1975. This was long before a direct comparison between chimpanzee and human DNA was possible. The first draft of the human DNA was not published until 2001 and the chimp in 2005. The 1975 comparisons used only selected and limited comparisons. They only looked at the parts that were similar and not all the parts of the DNA that are not similar. In other words, the results were biased and not based on honest, objective scientific research. In 2007, new and published research titled Relative Differences, the Myth of 1% indicated the real difference is 5%. However, in 2012, the media continued to spread the story of 2%. The chimpanzee genome is at least 10% larger than the human genome. Evolutionists claim humans are more closely related to chimpanzees than gorillas and orangutans. However, chemical tags that help regulate DNA activity on human DNA were more similar to gorillas and orangutans than to chimpanzees, completely counter to the evolutionary model. The Y chromosome, found only in males, was found to be over 50% different between chimpanzees and humans. DNA sequence comparisons that include all the relevant data plainly show that the human and chimp genomes are not nearly identical at all. Comparisons of the whole genome, not just selected parts, have now revealed even greater differences of over 20%. John Sanford, PhD in genetics, states, in fact, we know man and chimp differ at more than 150 million nucleotide positions. Jay Wild, PhD in nuclear chemistry, states, early on, it was widely thought that human DNA and chimp DNA were 99% similar. That was based on a very limited analysis of only a minute fraction of human and chimp DNA. Genome-wide, only 70% of the chimpanzee DNA was similar to human under the most optimal sequence slice conditions. The overall extreme continuity between the two genomes defies evolutionary timescales and dogmatic presuppositions about a common ancestor. And finally, Jerry Bergman, PhD in human biology, and Jeffrey Tompkins, PhD in genetics, state, the DNA sequence differences and genetic mechanisms reported in the literature support the conclusion that significant and unbridgeable genetic differences exist between humans and chimpanzees that defy evolutionary claims of a common ancestor. Now, what can we conclude from all of this? Well, let's take a look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. Revelation chapter 4, verse 11. You are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created. So in conclusion, yes, we are fearfully and wonderfully made.